Harihi Om Ganana Tva Ganapati Gum Havamahe Kavemu Kavinam Upamashravastamo Jyestharajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatha Anashunval Noti Bisida Sadhanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vache Virvajinivati Dhinamamitrayavato Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatyai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalar Spatikhatudhim Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivam Upasmahe Yasyat Virada Vakradhyaya Parishatya Parashatham Vignam Nignam Tisatatam Vishvashrimam Tamashraye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Sarvalokanam Bisaje Bhavaroginaha Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam Sri Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Sai Shvararpanamastu Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gitamrutatudhe Namaha Sarvopanishad Gavo Dhogdha Gopala Nandanaha Partho Vatsau Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamrutat Mahatha Vasute Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Kurum Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Krishnarpanamastu Om Tat Sat. Swagatam Namo Namaha and welcome to the second week as we explore the wonderful givings and the wonderful misgivings that teach us a lesson of how to exercise discrimination when we are faced with a problem. And we face problems every day, right? Like I said to you last week, this body is the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where the 5 good forces are constantly in battle with the 100 negative forces. For one good thought, you'll have 5 or 6 bad thoughts coming, or negative thoughts, or dharmic thoughts coming to stop you, or, deviate you from your righteous path, righteous action, righteous thought. So let's see. So last week I gave you an introduction, right? This week, against that introduction, I'm building on chapters 1 and chapters 2. And we'll continue like this for the next 9 weeks. We'll cover the 18 chapters, and then we'll have 1 week of reflection, consolidation, and review. So let me remind you again, the focus of these sessions is not to teach you how to recite the Gita, right? That's a different learning objective altogether. But the purpose is to make you understand and appreciate what actually happened and what was the content of conversation between Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, and of course, the great warrior Arjuna. And that very conversation that took place in that battlefield, in that time, in that setting, is very, very relevant today in this life, in this day and age. And that is what I'm trying to bring across. Like I said to you last week, I've got all these fruits, right? I'm not giving you the fruit to eat. I'm actually making a juice and giving you the juice so that you can easily drink and say, ah, the rasa and the saram, the taste and the essence is simply marvelous, right? Rather than showing you the tree, there you go, there's a banana tree, there's an apple tree, there's a, this tree, that tree, so on and so forth. So we are clear. If we are clear on that, then we can continue, right? If people are interested in learning how to chant, then please, let me know. And that's a different conversation for us to have. And that's no issue really, right? But like I said, more important than the chanting is the practical application of the Gita or the teachings of the Gita. And that is what we want to do. So let me take you back, just as I did, into the battlefield, right? And I want you to be in this battlefield until I finish, right? That means you must picture the picture that I gave you last week. I said to you, there's the chariot, 4 wheels, 5 horses. Krishna is holding the reins in one hand, gently turning towards Arjuna, who is talking to him, but in total subservience or humility, right? And the chariot is standing strong. There's a flag post. On the flag is flying. Hanuman is there, right? In front, there's a clear path, although on both sides of the chariot, the warring or the waging armies are there. Kauravas on the right, Pandavas on the left, all the animals, the horses, the elephants and so on and so forth. And you can see the horizon at the back with clear blue skies. So let's go back in there and we can continue, right, with what chapter 1 is. I said to you last week, chapter 1 is referred to as Arjuna Vishaddha Yoga, right? It is where Arjuna contributes to his confusion by being in right smack in the middle, where I placed the chariot. He was there. He could see everything on the right, everything on the left. He could see the clear path. He could see the blue skies, but he was in a total state of confusion. Observing the army in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Kurukshetra, right? Kuru means the dynasty of Kuru. Kshetra means place. Kurukshetra is also known as Dharmakshetra. Dharmakshetra is where in that land, in that place, only dharmic acts happen. Kurukshetra equals Dharmakshetra. So whilst standing or sitting in the chariot, as it were, and observing everything that is happening, he becomes totally confused. And in this state of confusion, he decides whether he should actually continue with the war or not. I said to you, total confusion. Because he's telling Krishna, how can I fight, how can I fight people who I've lived with, people who are related to me, and how can I fight my gurus? Surely this is not what you've taught me. The setting. So let me take you back to the setting. The scene is the sacred plains of Kurukshetra, right? And I said that is your body. The setting is the battlefield. That is your life. The circumstances is war. That is your mind. The main characters, as far as we are concerned, is Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme, and Arjuna. This is the intelligence or the intellect and the mind, buddhi and manas, right? And then, of course, there's all these other people, right? All the millions of soldiers and respective military commanders. These is your family, your friends, your relatives, your foes, your enemies, your well-wishers, your wishes of evil. All of this is that is. So as I unravel the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, picking out the finer points which we can take and imbibe and inculcate in our life today, right? Today. You have to reflect on your life. Remember I said the body is Kurukshetra. The battlefield is your life, right? The circumstances is your mind. Krishna, buddhi, intellect. Arjuna, manas, mind. Everybody else is everybody else in your life. Good, bad, good looking, bad looking, good intention, bad intention. All these peoples are the Kauravas or Pandavas. Elements. So, whatever problems you're facing today, this is the setting, right? And this is the true reflection of chapter 1. See, chapter 1 is basically telling you what actually happened, right? That caused Arjuna to be in such a state. So there is no, what can I say? There is no real essence in terms of teaching. Teaching only begins in chapter 2. Actually, from verse 11 of chapter 2, only the teaching begins, not now. Now it's just setting, the background. So what we are looking at is basically after naming all the principal warriors on the Pandava side, and of course the same thing happens on the Kaurava side, right? Arjuna's growing dejection is described in the verses. I told you chapter 1 has got 46 verses, right? So in all these verses, it's talking about how Arjuna felt. What was his state of mind? What contributed to that state of mind? So if you want a breakdown of the verses, then I should tell you the description of the armies, right? Number 1, description of the armies and the preparations that were taking place. That is verses 1 to 20. And then, of course, Arjuna's chariot being placed in the middle. This is where I have begun. I told you to place it there, right in the middle of both armies. Krishna took it there because Arjuna said, I want to see, right? 21 to 25 talks about that. Then, of course, 26 to 28, Arjuna's change of mind, right? Verses 26 to 28 talks about his change of mind leading to raga. Raga is attachment. Then Arjuna's grief, shoka, right? 29 to 34. And the remaining chapters, Arjuna's delusion, moha, maya, 35 to 46, 47. This is what we are looking at today, right? So, Arjuna, even though he was very learned, he had a lot of wisdom, but being where he was, he discovers the problem of samsara, a life, in the battlefield. What a place to stop and ponder about life, right? All the build up to the war, this thing never came to him. Suddenly, right smack in the middle of the problem, right? He's thinking, what am I doing here? Am I doing the right thing? Is this the right course of action? Is this the right way to go about it, right? So lesson for us there is always, always take time to reflect on what you're doing or what you're going to do or what, is the right thing to do. So surrender. Surrender attracts godly action. And you will see in a while, I'll talk about how surrender helped Arjuna, right? So as far as chapter 1 is concerned, right, there are 4 key phases in samsara. Or as we tread through chapter 1, there are 4 key phases, right? Key points that I want you to listen very carefully to. The first one is one should discover, right, the problem of samsara when looking at their life, right? The Gita happens to provide a solution for every kind of problem, actually, right? Unless one uncovers the disease from which one is suffering, the medicine will not be easily available. But if you pinpoint to the disease, then the medicine will show itself, right? Secondly, one should not become possessed by a sincere longing kind of attachment. This is called tivra mumuksha, right? For freedom from samsara, you should have a longing for God, right? But you cannot have a longing for freedom from samsara because you're born as a human being. You have to go through the cycle, right? Because only when you're attached to a worldly life, but you're detached from desires and the fruits of that worldly life, then you can go and live a committed and fruitful life. Your pursuit of the end result is very clear, right? But in getting attached to the desires, to the worldly, maya, we go wayward. And therein lies the problem. Thirdly, you have to realize where there is a problem, you are unable to solve it independently, right? the maximum that one can do as a human being is maybe derail it slightly, rearrange it slightly, reshape the problem slightly, but you will never be able to solve the problem yourself on your own. So who's there to solve it for me then? Who should I turn to? Who should I go to? That's the fourth point. Sharanagati, right? One should surrender to his guru, seeking guidance, right? When one discovers his guru, or when will one discover his guru? Even Krishna tells Arjuna, you may think of me as a guru, but I am not your guru until something happens. What is that thing? Okay, I'll talk about it in a while, right? Contextualize it. So the fourth point, if I can repeat again, is surrendering to a guru. These 4 points, if you observe in your life, even the biggest problems will become minute. And of course, with his grace, with his anugraha, you can tread through life with ease, okay? The problem of samsara will never go away, whether you're born as a king or as a prime minister, or, Bill Gates for that matter, or Anil Ambani, or Ratan Tata, or you're just born as a, factory worker somewhere. The problem of samsara attaches itself to everybody, right? Attachment, kripa or raga, grief, shoka or vishaddha, and of course, delusion, moha. Moha. That's why Arjuna was in such a state of grief. That's why this chapter is called Arjuna Vishaddha Yoga, grief. When one is not happy with oneself, one will seek external contributors in order for that one to be happy. This leads to dependence and attachment. When one is constantly in a state of happiness, there is independence and detachment. So again, we have to choose, right? I mean, the conditions for dependent forces are really unpredictable. But what it does is the entire peace of mind, the shanti goes and becomes ashanti. And when the mind becomes ashanti, a disturbed mind can only do one thing, and that is make judgments which become complicated, which is wrong in nature, because your mind is clouded. I told you the story of Buddha asked his devotees to go and fetch a water, and everybody came back and said, oh, it's muddy, we can't fetch. Then Buddha went and took something and let it stand for a while. After that, all the mud settled and there was clear water and so. He said, in life, you have to wait for your problems. If you try to attack them whilst they are just current, ponder on them for a while, think about them for a while, and then decide. Let the mud settle. Then the water is clear. Mud is the mind. Clear water is intelligence. Let the wisdom that comes forth from the intelligence tell you how to solve the problem. This is what the difference is between unconditioned minds and conditioned minds. In an unconditioned mind, this kind of vicious cycle will work. Effortlessly it will work, and it will take you, from bad to worse, worse to even worse. Right? That essentially is the problem of samsara. Right? Anyway, so let's go to the battle now. Right? Arjuna is there, he's watching, and he can see, Duryodhana is instructing all his commanders to get ready. Bhishma is there, Dronacharya is there, Ashwatthama is there, all the commanders are lining up on this side. And this side he can see, his brothers lined up there, Bhima is there, Yudhishthira is there, Nakula is there, Sahadeva is there, Drishtadumna is there, right? And all the kings, Drupadi is there. And he's thinking, my God, look at all these, they are my kith and kin. Look at all these, they are my kith and kin. While he's thinking like that, he's in doubt now. But let me take you to Sanjaya, who's sitting with the king, Dhritarashtra, right? I'll take you to the court now before I bring you back to the battle. Now, Dhritarashtra wants to know what is happening, what is happening. So he's asking He's asking Sanjaya. So the verse 1 of chapter 1 begins with that question. Which question? Dhritarashtra asking Sanjaya what is happening. So you will see it starts with something called Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveda Yuyutsavaha Mama Kampandavaschaiva Kim Kurvata Sanjaya. He said, Sanjaya, I know all of them are gathered in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Right? Now, they all want to fight. What did my sons, Mama Ka, that means my children, Pandavaschaiva, and the sons of Pandu, his brother, what are they doing? So, Sanjaya can see because, he's been given the special drishti, the vision, so that he can tell Dhritarashtra what is happening. This is the point I want you to note. It was not just Arjuna who was having doubts. It was not just Arjuna whose mind was disturbed. When Duryodhana, right, he saw all the lineup, the four brothers, each with their shank, blowing the conch, that signals the beginning of the war. And he saw the lineup. He said, wow, this is a fantastic lineup. And then he's looking at Bhishma and Dronacharya. So Dhritarashtra is now interested. He's saying, tell me what is happening. And Sanjaya then continues. Sanjaya says, Dristvatu Pandavanikam Yuddham Duryodhanasthatha Acharya Mupasangamya Rajya Vachamana Bravit. He's saying, Sanjaya said, on observing the Pandava army standing so, magnificently, Duryodhana, your king, he tells Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, your king. There's two messages there. One, that means only you have recognized him as king, no one else. Therefore, he's your king, right? Number two, he's saying, oh, Duryodhana thinks of himself as a king, but he's got no quality to be a king. So Sanjaya's words has to be analyzed here in context. So he's saying, only your king. When he saw the fantastic array of commanders lining up on the front, he himself had some doubts. And he approached Dronacharya, his teacher, and he said this. So Dhritarashtra saying, what did he say? Pashyatitham Pandu Putranam Acharya Mahatim Jamum Yuddham Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dimata. So Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana went to his guru and said, respected teacher, look, behold the mighty army of the sons of Pandu and their allies, so expertly arrayed by battle or to do battle, for battle, by your own gifted disciple, the son of Drupad, King Drupad, Drishtadyumna. Now he's having a go at Dronacharya. Who is having a go? Duryodhana is having a go at Dronacharya. He says, you should not have tutored Drupad's son, Drishtadyumna, because he is there now leading. Look, what a fantastic lineup. Can you see? Why did you take him as your pupil? So just to give you a bit of context, right? Dronacharya and King Drupad were actually Gurukula mates, right? And in one of the, as the story goes, Drupad was humiliated by Dronacharya, number one. Number two, when Dronacharya became the Kulaguru for the Kauravas, they attacked Drupad's kingdom and they took half his kingdom and they banished Drupad. So Drupad did a very big yajna, right? In that yajna, his sankalpa was only one thing. I want a son who will come and avenge me and kill Drona. And out of that fire came Drishtadyumna with the relevant, weapon to end the life of Dronacharya. So Duryodhana is reminding him, his purpose of life is to put an end to your life. Why did you take him as a pupil? I want you to see here the difference between, this is how we treat people. If someone does bad, we don't want to have anything to do with them, or we want to do bad to them. Look at Dronacharya. He said, as a guru, I owe it to any pupil who come with the right mindset to teach them. Whether I die in his hands or in someone else, that is charted in my course of life. So anyway, that's what he was saying. So Drishtadyumna's life objective was to kill Dronacharya. So now Duryodhana is saying, look, you taught him, right? He was one of your fine pupils, right? Like Arjuna. Look, he's waiting to kill you. Drona said, let it be. It's not a problem. So the point here that I'm making is, sometimes we think only we are in doubt, and we put our opponents in such a high place that we think, oh, they are ready for battle. They are going to get me. But we do not know what their state of mind is. What is happening in this chapter? Krishna is telling us, look, you may be in doubt, but look, the guy who thinks he's going to win the war because he's got my 18 million soldiers, he is also in a sincere doubt as to whether he can, just by looking at the army lineup, right? So now we go back to the battlefield and we look at Krishna and Arjuna. So Arjuna is saying, oh my God, oh my, Arjuna's mind is, how can I do battle with all these people I know, right? Because for him, battle means bad people or people you don't know. So he's saying, these are all my kith and kin. I can't do this. I cannot do this. So Krishna knows this fellow's vision has been clouded by raga, by vishada, and by shoka. The three things: attachment, grief, and confusion, right? So what does Arjuna say? Yotsyamanam avekshaham yayethetra samagrataha Dhridastrasya durbuddhir yuddhe priya chiksharabaha. He said, take me a bit more closer. I want to see all these people, and I want to see the evil-minded Dhridastrasya durbuddhar. That means the evil-minded son of Dhritastra. I want to see why and how he is prepared to do this battle. Naturally, Arjuna has been overpowered by attachment, no? So then comes this twin offshoots of attachment, which is grief and delusion. The moment you have attachment, these two things will spring out of it. What? Grief and delusion, right? So the verses after that, right? I think it's 31 to 35. They talk about the intense grief that holds Arjuna and shakes him completely, right? Arjuna, even in that state of mind, he wants to find reasons why he shouldn't do the battle. Like most of us. When we have a problem, we find 100 reasons why we shouldn't do something. Arjuna was even quoting the scriptures. He was whacking from the Upanishads. He said, this is this. Matru Devo Baba, Pitru Devo Baba, Acharya Devo Baba, Aditi Devo Baba. Look, my teachers are there, Acharyas are there. And all these people who are my guests in my kingdom are now waging war against each other. So where is the dharma in fighting them? He comes up with solid reasons why he shouldn't fight. Because he's caught up in that delusion, that confusion, that grief will take you to that state of delusion, right? Then what happens? This is where I want you to pause for a moment, right? The difference between attachment and love. Because, I got some questions from people saying, but if you love somebody, you have to be attached to them, isn't it? If you're not attached to them, how will you love them? This is wrong thinking, right? Gita also shows you how to think right. So let me take 1 minute to explain to you the difference between attachment and love. In attachment, I depend on the person to whom I'm attached. I depend on that person to whom I'm attached for security, for happiness, or whatever. I depend on the other person or his presence or his, whatever he has to comfort me. Therefore, where there is attachment, there is expectation. Where there is expectation, there is disappointment. Where there is disappointment, there is anger. Where there is anger, there is destruction. What about love? In love, I allow that person to depend on me. Note very carefully, right? In attachment, I depend. In love, I allow the other person or other persons to depend on me. I position myself to offer comfort to all the people who depend on me. And this I can do out of strength, out of independence, and out of no expectations. That's why, Krishna says, do your duty, don't expect results, don't expect rewards. Reward, recognition, result, don't expect. So when you are exercising unconditional or true love, there is only strength independence, and non-expectation. Whereas in attachment, there is weakness, dependence, and expectation. So now you know what is the difference between love and attachment. If you're attached, slowly move to love. If you're in love, go further, right? That means you have strength, you have independence, and you have no expectation. When you are able to do anything for anyone without expecting anything in return, whether you're thinking, whether you're speaking, or whether you're doing, that expectation, expectation in thought, expectation in word, expectation in deed. Even if you don't say it, even if you don't show it by conduct, if you think of expectation, it's the same effect. Krishna is saying, get to that stage in this, Manusha Janma, in this life of a human. Get to that stage where you can do anything for anybody without thinking of a return, speaking of a return, or doing something that calls for a return. But Arjuna, no, he was attached. He mistook his love for attachment. Right? In fact, he treated attachment as the sign of love. So he was, because of that attachment, grief, sorrow, delusion all came. Raga, Soka, Moga, all came and hit him. Right? Arjuna wanted to stop, because we always want the easy way out, don't we? When we have a problem, what do? We want the easiest way out, and we'll go for that, and we'll cite so many reasons why that is the best way. Just reflect on yourself for a minute. Many of you would be able to relate to this, right? Another thing I want you to do at this point, the battle is almost commencing, right? But Krishna stopped the time because he's talking to Arjuna. In that moment, Arjuna is taking time to think about what is happening. How many of us? I want you to apply this now to your life. When you have a problem, do you stop to think? Do you pause and ponder? Do you reflect? Do you inflect before you react? Or I should say, if you do pause and ponder, then you are no longer reacting, you are responding. And I spoke about reaction and response in the Bhajagovindam series. You should never react, you should always respond. Right? The difference is, in reaction, A, straight away B comes. In response, A is there, B doesn't come until there is a pause for thought. Then whether B comes or doesn't come, that thought will make B realize. That is why, since the whole thing is concerned about Arjuna's state of mind and his state of confusion, this chapter is aptly called Arjuna Vishaddha Yoga. Vishaddha means no faith in himself, no faith in anything that is happening. So Arjuna was citing Upanishad. He said, Mundakya Upanishad, this is said. He said, what can we beget? He said, Janardana, what can we get by killing our own people? I will be committing a sin if I kill my guru. My Acharya is there. Pitama is there. Dronacharya is there. And people I grew up with. When Krishna says, you want to quote Shastras to me? Let me tell you what the Shastras say about people who sin. So he said, let me tell you about a person who's called Atatayin. Atatayin, yeah? So Arjuna is wondering, who is this? He said, Agnido Garadasya Chaiva Sastrapane Dhanapataha Shetthadara Parthacha said Vidyat Atatayinaha. Atatayinaha. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, see, they're both very powerful, right? But of course, if Arjuna thinks he is very wise, then he does not realize he is talking to the pinnacle of wisdom. That is Lord Sri Krishna. So Krishna is saying, you are quoting Mundakya Upanishad. Let me tell you the essence of the Shastras. He says, one who commits any one of these 6 cardinal sins is called a Atatayin. Atatayin. One, for example, who commits Agnida. Agnida is one who sets fire to another's property. You remember in the story, the Pandavas were staying somewhere, and what did Duryodhana do? Set fire to the palace, right? Agnida. Garadha, one who poisons another. This happened when they were young, remember he poisoned Bhima, right? Then Shastrapani, one who kills another without weapon. When that one person without weapon is unarmed and incapable of defending himself. Remember how Arjuna's son, Abhimanyu, was killed. He didn't have any weapon. Still, he was done. Dhanapaha, one who desires for the wealth of others, or who steals the wealth of others. And that's what he's done here, isn't it? He didn't even want to give the Pandavas 5 villages. Forget about a kingdom. Then Kshetrabhata, this is one who steals the land of another. And finally, Dharapartha. Dhara means the other half, your other half. That means wife. Harta means one who abducts. Of course, you might think, when did Duryodhana abduct? Yeah, he abducted Draupadi, right? And then brought her to the court and all. Yeah. So Krishna is telling, you are saying, Arjuna, you're saying you don't want to fight because you think Duryodhana is your cousin. Although he's adharmic, he doesn't deserve to be killed. He is a Maha Athatayin. He is a great sinner because he's done all this to you. So he's not just Athatayin. So tell me, what does your Upanishad say to that? So Arjuna listened to him, and slowly Krishna, by saying all this, he's chiseling out, all the rust in Arjuna's mind about attachment, about grief, about sorrow. But one thing I want you to note, throughout chapter 1, Arjuna was ranting. Arjuna kept on ranting. I couldn't, I shouldn't, I couldn't, I wouldn't, I should not, I can't. For all reasons he was saying. Krishna just kept quiet. Krishna refrains from teaching Arjuna until, well, when I do chapter 2, verse 7, you'll know. Because Arjuna hadn't surrendered. Only when the surrender comes, then you will get results. How is this relevant to our life? Surrender to God. Without thought, surrender. Don't keep analyzing and processing and exploring what methodology is there, in what ways can your problem be solved. Surrender to God. Only then he will help. Swami also says that, isn't it? All the religious texts say that, ask and it shall be given. Knock and the door shall open. Seek and you shall find. Like that, when you surrender to God, that's when he comes and helps in whatever way possible. In whatever way possible. So another lesson is, Krishna will not give any advice until anyone asks for it. We live in a world where advice is given freely by everybody and anybody just because they can do it. So what is the teaching here? The teaching here is never give advice. Never give advice until and unless you are asked for it. Even if somebody is telling you their problem, don't give them the answer until they ask you, what should I do? Can I do something about it? What do you think? Right? Don't stop them from telling their problem halfway and you tell your problem. Or you give a solution to a problem that you don't know. So this is another lesson for us from the Gita, right? Do not give advice freely. Do not give it until you are asked for it. And give it when you're in a position, having that wisdom, having that intellect to give it, not just because it was asked of you, right? So how would I know who's my guru? When you are prepared to surrender, the guru will reveal himself to you. Right? When the shishya, yatho shishya, tatho guru, tato vidya. Finish. There you go. You don't have to worry about that. When you are ready to surrender and you are ready to accept the guru, you will find that guru will come in your way, because that is how the energies work. The energies work on the basis of your own thoughts. Now, thoughts create energy, right? So Krishna was there with Arjuna. Krishna could easily have told him everything. No, he waits. He waits for Arjuna to surrender. And only when Arjuna surrenders and say, I am at the stage of such despondency, of such delusion, I have no hope except to surrender to you. Please help me, get me out of this. That's when Krishna says, now that you have accepted me, I shall tell you what you should be doing. Right? So, if you want an analysis of the chapter 1, it is basically, showing you how the battle was formatted, structured, who were the primary commanders, who was doing what positioning, So historical context, if you like, right? There's no real essence that comes apart from the fact that, attachment and surrender, the two main things that come out of that, right? If you want Arjuna was also thinking, why am I fighting this war? Because simply because one king did not give the throne to the rightful heir, who was my brother, Dharmaraja or Yudhishthira, and he gave it to his own son, Duryodhana. So now I'm fighting this battle, which I don't want to fight, because of someone else's entitlement. And because I am born in the same blood, I have to fight this war. So Arjuna found himself in a similar position like Hamlet. Hamlet, the Shakespearean work? Hamlet had to fight for his uncle, isn't it? For control of the crown that he did not necessarily want. The same thing Arjuna was going through. So Krishna was trying to tell him, why are you saying all this? And only when he surrenders, then Krishna talks about the eternal righteousness, the Sanatana Dharma that should come out of every living human being. Right? In each life, we are born with karma, isn't it? We are born with karma, we come with karma, we live according to our karma, and we die according on the basis of that karma. So why should you think you can do something that can be totally above the line of karma? So let me give you an acronym for chapter 1. Since we are dealing with Arjuna's doubt, I thought I will use the acronym DOUBT, D-O-U-B-T. What does D stand for? This acronym is for you to reflect, right? For you to reflect. D-O-B-U-T. What is D? D is Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. So you can see what they have done, and you can see that the position that they are in, they were still in doubts about winning the war despite their positioning, despite their degree of valor. Reflect on that in your own life. O, D-O. O is for ominous results. What does that mean? Sometimes, even when we can see victory clearly, we the shroud, the veil of doubt, the veil of uncertainty, the veil of grief, the veil of attachment, the veil of sorrow, all will come and cloud our mind's clarity. But ominous results will happen where there is dharma. Hence, Krishna told Arjuna, Yatho dharma tatho Krishna, Yatho Krishna tatho jayam. Where there is dharma, there is Krishna, and where there is Krishna, there is only one result, that is victory. So ominous results, D-O. U is uncertainty. Uncertainty for whom? Arjuna. Who was with him? Krishna. Who's Krishna? God. Who's Arjuna? Man. So uncertainty in life basically means sometimes, even when God is in our midst, in some way, God comes in different forms to help people in different ways. Even when we have that certainty of divine presence, still we are uncertain in our mind. D-O-U. B. B is for bewilderment. State of mind will take you to that stage. Always keep it clear. Always keep it healthy. Always keep it happy. A happy, healthy, clear mind will not go into bewilderment, because a bewildered mind will lead to disturbance and frustration and inability, right, to progress or proceed further. And finally, T, turning point. T-O-U-B-T, turning point. Whose turning point? Arjuna's turning point. All his disheartenment, all his bewilderment at the sheer consequences of the destruction that would happen should he participate in this war, so much so that he decides not to participate and puts his Gandhiva down, all will go when that turning point comes. So how do we apply it in our life? Whenever something happens, there will be some turning point. That's what we need to look for. Keep looking forward, never look backward. I said to you last week, right? The past is history, the future is a mystery, live in the present. Okay? That brings us nicely into chapter 2. Chapter 2 is called Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya is knowledge. Hence, some people refer to this as the entire chapter of Gita. The book of Gita summarized in this chapter. Sankhya Yoga, the largest, longest chapter in the entire 18 books of Bhagavad Gita, 72 verses. This is where the surrender comes in, and Arjuna says, I have argued, you have equally countered my arguments. Now I am at a state where I have no choice. Purna Sharanagati. Tuma bina koi nahi rakhwale. We sing that bhajan, isn't it? Without you, there is no solace. I'm totally destitute. You, and only you can help me. So, chapter 2 is actually divided into 5 sections. The first one is Arjuna Sharanagati, Arjuna surrender, verses 1 to 10. Then if you look at Sankhya Yoga, comes 11 to 38, the slokas. Then Karma Yoga, Krishna also talks a little bit about introduction to Karma Yoga, because chapter 3 will be completely Karma Yoga. So he's starting the ball rolling in chapter 2 itself, 39 to 53. Then the fourth one is very important. It's called Sthita Prajnanya Lakshanaha. That means he's talking about the qualities of a wise man with steady wisdom, or a man of perfection. Because he's giving Arjuna all the knowledge until one point comes and Arjuna says, you talk so much about the man who's doing right. Tell me what are his qualities. That is what this Sthita Prajnanya Lakshanaha. Right? The qualities of a wise sage or a man of perfection. That's what it looks like. So in the second chapter, Arjuna is now completely immersed in the conversation with Krishna, and he's asking, should this war continue? So in the beginning of the second chapter, we see a slow and gradual turning point by Arjuna because of the constant chastisement by Krishna. And Krishna is telling him, Kutastva kashmalam medam vishame saupastitham anargya justhama swargyam akirtikaram Arjunaha. He's telling Arjuna, look, your delusion has overtaken you in this hour of peril. It is not befitting, this is what he say, anargya justhama and aswargyam. That means, if you continue to act like this, you will not go to swarga. Akirtikaram. He says, this is not what you should be doing. Your karma is not this. It leads not to the higher abodes, but to disgrace. Akirtikaram Arjunaha, he's saying. Then he continues. He's giving Arjuna, right? He says, Klabhyam asma gama prataha naitattvapyupa padyate shudram hridaya daubhagyam yakto tishta parantapaha. Partha, Krishna calls Arjuna in different ways, right? Partha, it does not befit you to yield to this unmanliness. Give up all this petty weakness of the heart. Give up all these petty thoughts. You are the vanquisher of enemies. You cannot behave like this. He's whacking Arjuna, Now, two things we need to look at what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. He's saying, firstly, you are attached to the thought that is not dharmic. So you need to detach yourself from adharmic thoughts, basically. That's the fundamental problem which cannot be solved by superficial methods. Secondly, you have to surrender to a guru to get you out of this fundamental problem. Only when the Shishya surrenders to the guru will reveal the way forward. This is the Guru-Shishya Parampara. The relationship comes like that, right? So now, when Arjuna surrenders, Krishna becomes the guru and he becomes the Shishya. And you will see in some pictures, first Krishna is standing and Arjuna is standing. In some pictures, Arjuna is bowing down and Krishna is talking. In some pictures, Arjuna is in a total state of subordination and Krishna is talking. This is the gradual turning point of Arjuna and the shaving of a person's ego, thoughtlessness, unmanliness, adharmic qualities to a point of complete subordination. The one who can guide, Guru. Sadguru Charanabindabhyam Namaha. I offer myself at the lotus feet of my Guru. Even God, when Guru is there, will tell the devotee, first prostrate to your Guru, because I only come at the end. He comes first. Matrudevava, first Guru is your mother. So, if you are doing everything but you don't respect your mother, you don't listen to your mother, no point. Then your father. Acharya Devo Bhava. Number 3. Matru, Pitru, Acharya, Aditi. Guest is God. Because God is in everybody, isn't it? Ahamatma Guda Kesha. I'm in everybody. Sarva Bhutesya Sthitaha. I'm in everything. So once you discover that you have a real yearning and you surrender to that discovery, then the Guru will show himself, right? Then Arjuna says, how then? What about the Guru? How do how do you counter the argument that I will fight my Guru? There is no doubt that they are my Gurus, right? So how can I fight my Gurus? Okay, I accept everything you say, but how can I kill Dronacharya and how can I kill Bhishma? By killing them, am I not killing myself? Because they're so very much part of me, right? Then Krishna gives him the reasons. He gives him 3 reasons from 3 perspectives why Arjuna should fight that war. First, from Adhyatmika Drishti, from the perspective of Atma. Krishna says, you are a fool, Arjuna. You are looking at the body. I am looking at the Atma. Your Atma, Bhishma's Atma, Dronacharya's Atma, Duryodhana's Atma, Yudhishthira's Atma, they are the same. Atma is never subject to change. In spite of the bodily changes, the Atma remains the same. It is neither a doer nor an enjoyer. Although the body is the doer, the body is the enjoyer, the Atma is detached from that. Hence, neither are you, Arjuna, a slayer, and neither is Bhishma the slain. Why should you resist the fight? Oh, Arjuna is thinking, okay, this is the Adhyatmika Drishti. Then secondly, because Krishna is now saying, you are looking at the impermanent body, I am looking at the permanent soul. So don't lament about who you're fighting, Don't look at the person. Look at the Atma. Atma is the same. So there's no difference. Bodily, yes, we are different in different ways. The second ground he gives is something called Dharmika Drishti. That means the perception of Dharma. Why Arjuna should fight on the grounds of Dharma. He's saying you are born as a Kshatriya. What is the Kshatriya's primary duty? It is to defend Dharma, isn't it? That's why you're called Kshatriya. So even in the Purusha Suktam, it says, Bahu Rajanya Kritaha. That means you should protect. Look over the shoulders of everybody that you see and protect. What are you protecting? Dharma. Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Even I take incarnations to protect that Dharma as a Kshatriya. That and only that is your main calling in life. Now Arjuna is getting a bit more clearer. And the third one he says is something called Laukika Drishti. That means from a worldly perception, why Arjuna should fight. He said, you are such an accomplished warrior, right? You have won so many wars. Don't you think the world will look at you and say, such an accomplished warrior was such a coward in that war? So you should do the right thing and fight. I've given you Adhyatmika Drishti. I've given you Dharmika Drishti. Now I've given you Laukika Drishti. On 3 perceptions at different levels of consciousness, you should fight this. So with these arguments, Krishna has told him, you have no choice. This is your fight. Not against Bhishma as you see, not against Drona as you see, but your fight to reinstill Dharma. I have taken a birth to reinstill Dharma. You too, as a human being, have to reinstate Dharma wherever you see. Right? So from that point, after he clears that confusion, he goes into Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga, part of Karma Yoga. Right? He starts giving, Then Arjuna asks him a very interesting question. He says, how can I get out of the world and be detached from it? Krishna says, I am not telling you should be out of the world. I am telling don't get attached to it. Right? So at this point, I thought I'll tell you a story about the great Swami Chinmayananda. Chinmayananda once was being interviewed by a Western, quite a learned journalist. So this journalist was asking him, I cannot understand why you Chinmayananda was such a learned scholar, right? He was a very accomplished, very well educated. So the journalist asked him, I can't think of a reason why you would leave all your worldly achievements and worldly wealth to live this life of a, mendicant, a sage, a rishi. Now Chinmayananda saw him, he was chewing gum, He was in his mouth, he had some chewing gum. He said, what are you doing? What's in your mouth? He said, oh, that's a chewing gum. Then Chinmay asked him, how long will that be there? And he said, oh, until I get tired of chewing and until that I lose that taste, I lose that rasa, then I will spit it out. And Chinmayananda then responded, yeah, I too was chewing on material wealth and material enjoyment for so long. Then I spat it out and this is what I am now. Right? You must have that buddhi, not just surrender for the sake of surrendering, but you must have that buddhi. Then only you can surrender properly, right? Then Krishna talks to him about karma. He said, you cannot avoid it. You are destined to fight, you have to fight. You are destined to fall and injure yourself, you will do, no matter how careful you are, right? If you are destined to go at a specific time, you will go, no matter how healthy you are or how sickly you are, right? We've heard so many stories of people who medically had no hope at all, but they come out and they live for a few more years. And we've heard stories of people who are so healthy, not even one complaint of health or ill health in their life, and they suddenly go. That's because of karma, right? So he says, you have to live this life and do what you have to do because that is your dharmic calling, right? This equanimity in action, in thought, word, and action is a yoga in itself. So he goes on to talk about dhyana yoga at another stage, right? And I'll talk to you about that. But in this, he's telling, these are all what you need to think about. This is the skill of action. Hence, Sankhya, Buddhi, Karma. Right? A tranquil mind will never be tranquil for very long. If you look at a lake that is very calm, the waters are calm, you take the smallest of pebble possible and you throw it. Doesn't matter where that pebble lands, the entire lake becomes disturbed. You will see the vibrations going and spreading until the whole lake. So that's a tranquil mind, is unless it is trained through self-knowledge, one gets attached to that peaceful, liberated mind. Then whatever things you throw in that lake, i.e. your mind, you're not going to be affected by it because it will come back to a state of calm. This is only temporary. What I know is permanent. What I have is permanent, right? So he talks to Arjuna in that way. He said, knowledge cannot be fruitful until it is stabilized and assimilated. Likewise, your mind is a troublemaker, so control your mind. Your mind is telling you don't fight for all these various reasons. Now control it. So unless you become that person who is able to control thoughts, words, and actions, right? The mind will always, and the sense organs will always give you problem, right? So he goes on to talk about self-knowledge, how you should, always be in a state where you are exercising discrimination. And I told you, Krishna holding the reins of the five forces, the reins are the viveka or discrimination, the five are the five senses. Unless you are in control of that, what is Krishna? Intelligence. What is Arjuna? Mind. Only when the intellect exercises sufficient, adequate, or appropriate discrimination to control the five senses of organ or the five organs of perception, then and only then the mind is under control, right? See, the best comparison I can give you to a wise man's mind is the ocean. The ocean is independently full and is unaffected by the rivers entering it or not entering it, dirty or clean. It maintains itself, After some time, it becomes clean again. It knows these fellows will come and throw things. This river will come, it's full of rubbish. That river will flow, that is clean. From the mountain, that one will come very clean. But it knows at the end of the day, what am I doing? Because I should not be affected by all the things that enter into me because I am the ocean. Self-knowledge. Likewise, make sure you are in the thought process of saying, I cannot be affected by what others say, others do, and what others think. I should only be affected by what I think, what I say, and what I do. And I cannot be that person unless I detach. You remember when I was teaching you Bhajagovindam, I spoke about Satsangatvam, Nitsangatve, Nitsangatvam, Nirmohatve, Nirmohatvam, Nischalatattvam, Nischalatattvam, Jivan Mukti. talking about detachment. Once you are detached and you connect to that one immutable reality, Nischala Tattvam, and the end result will be Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti, definitely. Right? So, if you want an analysis of chapter 2, right, then it's becoming a wise man. How to come out of your worldly problems, your samsaric problems, as a wise person. He says, Arjuna, don't think of yourself as a brother. Don't think of yourself as a family man. Don't think of yourself as anything but a warrior. And you are fighting to uphold righteousness. Only that. So Arjuna's thought has been elevated from a mundane level to a conscious level, where he is now, having surrendered to Krishna, he is vibrating at a different level. The same person, remember, chapter 1, completely gone. Total state of desolate. Completely desolate, isn't it? Now, he's ready to fight. Krishna moves deeper into the science of the mind, science of buddhi, science of sankhya, science of karma, and he takes Arjuna to the next stage, where he says, do your duty as a warrior. Do not attach yourself to the results of that war. Dedicate that to me, whether it is good or bad. Hence, the one essence that flows out throughout the Gita is do your duty. Do not attach yourself to the rewards. Right? And Arjuna asks, you talk about this person who, once in control, becomes a man of perfection. He's got such divine consciousness vibrating within him. Who is this man? I want to know what is thought process. How does he carry himself? So before I answer that, I have to give you the acronym for the second chapter. The second chapter, since it summarizes the whole Gita, the acronym is Gita, G-I-T-A. What is G? G is Guru. Guru, the guidance of a Guru is invaluable in a world filled with uncertainty and calamity. 100%. I am just repeating what Krishna has told Arjuna. This is not, Panditji saying, this is not Vignesh saying, this is said by him, repeated by him, repeated by me. So, guidance of a Guru. G is for Guru. I, identity. Who are you? Who are you? As in, you should ask yourself constantly, isn't it? Who am I? This is what Krishna was telling Arjuna. Who are you? You are not the person. Kasto tvam kutaha yahataha. Who are you? Where have you come from? So who am I? The physical realm versus spiritual wisdom. Always reflect. Who am I? What am I doing here? At a physical level, yes, I am Vigneswaran. I am the son of Krishna. I am the husband of Vanita. I am the father of Harini. I am the father of Tarini. Yes, but at the spiritual level, I am Atma, totally independent. So you have to constantly think and vibrate at that level. G-I-T. T is for two dharmas. In living your life in this world, in this current world, Bhuloka, you have two dharmas. One is called Swadharma Paripalanaha. The other is called Sanatana Dharma Paripalanaha. Swadharma Paripalanaha is serving your mind and body where you are living in the world. Swadharma. Doing your worldly duties. Sanatana Dharma is eternal duty, living for the world. And Krishna says, you must have these two dharmas. You must live in the world, but not be desirous of it. Be detached from it and do your duty for everything else and everyone else in the world. Have a balance. Do your duty, but don't get attached to it. Right? That is the only way to heighten your consciousness. And the last one, G-I-T-A. A is for Atma Rama. Right? Arjuna asks 4 questions of Krishna. Right? He says, you speak of the person who is known as Atma Rama. Means one who is perfect, a sage of steady wisdom. Who is this person? I have 4 questions to ask you. And this comes, from verses 55 to verses 60, about 60 something. First he asks, what are the characteristics of the realized soul? Then he asks, how does this realized soul speak or respond to people? Then thirdly, he asks, how does he sit? Well, he means, how does he sit means how does he control his own mind and control his own senses? How does he curtail that? And finally, he says, how does he walk? Walk means, again, how do you walk with your senses? How do you manage your senses, right? So Krishna tells him, verse 55, he talks about the first thing. You want to know who is a perfect man? Well, two things. He is free from worldly desire and he is in spiritual practice, and that alone gives him all the happiness he needs. So two answers there. One, detachment from worldly desires. Two, spiritual practice. That could be anything, right? That could be Raja Yoga, which is meditation. Jnana Yoga, which is knowledge. Karma Yoga, which is service. Or Bhakti Yoga, which is devotion. Then how does he speak or how does he respond to other people? He says, well, two things again. He is neither elated nor is he disturbed. A mind of equanimity. He is free from worldly attachment. Kama and Krodha, Roga, Lobha, Mora, Mara, Mamada, Machara, Ahamkara. All this he is free. How does he sit? Now, this is where Krishna talks about a tortoise. A tortoise. Have you seen when you approach a tortoise, what is the reaction of the tortoise? Very important. Huh? The moment the tortoise sees something coming, it retracts its limbs from its shell and you cannot see anything. You can only see the hard shell. That, Krishna is saying, if you want to restrain your mind and control your senses, you must be like a tortoise. The moment you see something, retract. Exercise discrimination and withdraw from your senses instruction and dictation. Withdraw from your senses dictation and instruction. Be like the tortoise. Okay. And then finally, the last question, how does one walk? Okay. The perfect man. How does one walk? How do they engage their senses? They're so perfect. He is one who engages only in my service. Hence, Swami says, service to man is service to God. Jana Seva is Janardana Seva. Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. There you go, you got your answers. Forget about what happened to Arjuna. What is that lesson for you in this life? That's what you got to think about. Every single thing, every single character has a lesson to impart to us here and now. What is that lesson? That is all I want. Let me take that lesson, imbibe it, inculcate it, practicalize it, and apply it in my life. Then I'm fine. I am Arjuna and my Guru is Krishna. Finish. Instead, we want to go back to the story. What happened? Who did what to who? Where was the war fought? It's being given to you, like I said, as a glass of juice. Or there's a tree. I'm giving you a nice cool glass of coconut water and I'm showing you a coconut tree. Now it's entirely up to you whether you just want to drink the cool coconut water or whether you want to go through the trials and tribulations of climbing that coconut tree, plucking the coconut, if you're successful, coming down, breaking it, shredding it, extracting the juice and then drinking. The result is the same. The result is the same. Remember, the body and the Atma are two different things. Body is temporary. Atma is not. So what you need to do in this life with this body is to make sure that the Atma's journey continues. And not so much focused on the bodily journey that you ignore the Atma, so much so that when that day comes, you are gifted with another life. Punarjanmaha. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shayanam. Iha samsare bahutustare kripaya pare pahi murare. Again birth, again death, again birth, again death. Yeah. I've given you this life so you can cut that, curtail that, curb that. No more life. Exercise discrimination. Detach yourself. Don't claim rewards, don't claim awards, don't claim recognition. Sarvam Krishna Arpanam, Sarvam Sai Arpanam, Sarvam Rama Arpanam, Sarvam Jesus Arpanam. Whatever the case is, don't take any credit. If you continue to do that, then credits or criticisms will not affect you. The two C's, credit or criticism, right? The two C's will take you to the two D's or will not take you to the two D's. Two C's, credit and criticism. If you practice, you will not go to D, the two D's, duty and devotion. It will take you to another two D's, death and destruction. Finish. Okay, so let me end chapter 2 here. Right, so you can come out of the battle and go to your worldly lives. Next Sunday, I will take you back to the battle. We go into Karma Yoga next week and chapter 4. Right? And Brother Ganesh will be sending you some reflective questions. Do reflect on them. Do ponder on them. Because they're very, inward looking. And unless, you take something, having heard something, you reflect on this, the learning is never complete. Okay? So, Swasti Prajabhyam Paripalayantham Nyayena Madhyena Mahi Mahisha Go Brahmanebhyo Subhamastu Nityam Samasta Lokha Sukhino Bhavantu.